All right, so you guys know about me, so I'm not gonna go through the introduction side of things. So let me dive into the automation side of things, right? So before we do that, so today what I wanna cover is test automation. I think some of you are already familiar with it. Then I'll cover the RPA side of things. What is RPA and what are the popular tools, technologies, and those things. So I'll get you guys some basic idea about RPA. That is my goal. Then I'll show you a couple of demos. So one of the demo would be the Tosca. I think most of you are familiar with Ruby Cucumber. So I'll just show you very briefly Ruby Cucumber demo as well. Then I'll dive into the Tosca side of things, which is another popular automation tool. And the last piece would be the RPA, test automation tool. And then we will work through, see what are the things, what are the skills gap, and what are the differences in those technologies. I think once you see the demos, then you will understand how similar they are, but how differently they use in the applications. All right, so I think most of you went through the QA camp. So you guys probably familiar with what is automation, right? So again, it's automation is nothing but whatever you do manually, that's what you are trying to do. You do the same thing using the tool. Basically some type of automation tool, whether it's a Ruby Cucumber or Tosca or QTP, UFT, or Catalan is another one. So one of those tools, basically. But essentially, when you are applying the automation to the testing technologies or QA, so essentially what you want to verify at the end is my test case passed or failed? So that is the goal of the automation in the QA. So that's basically nothing but comparing the outcome with the basically whatever you are doing manually. So you want the tool to do the same thing when you start using the automation tools in the QA area or testing side of things. And typically the automation, obviously you have to utilize a tool, right? And main thing is whatever tool that you use, basically goal is to simulate the human behavior or whatever you are doing manually in the manual test case, manual testing. So tool has to do that same thing. So in order to do that, in order to basically do that, you have to supply some instruction to the tool. And that's where some of the scripting knowledge or some programming knowledge and those things comes in the picture for you. That's where the instruction, that's how you can supply the instruction to the tools. And the last thing, I mean, there are several tools in the market, I think in the QA area or for test automation. And I think they are coming up with new tool almost every day in this area. Okay. So let me move on to the little bit more conceptually for those who are not familiar with how this tool works. Okay. Essentially, when you start using these automation tools, what happens is essentially this tool, when you are doing manually, let me go back, take a step back. When you are doing manually, right? And when you are comparing certain things, so you want to do certain things on the page for a web application. Let's say you are testing a web app. So you pretty much interact. You want to read the values, type in some values, or maybe you want to click on some buttons. But you have to, in order to do that, you have to visually identify the controls or where you want to input those values or which button you want to click. So that's a visual identification portion of the manual side of things or automation side of things. So tool has to be able to do that, visually identify basically those controls, and then perform some action on those controls. So whether you want to click it or you want to input some data, those are considered as actions. And those are the typically 99% of the time, those are the only two things you will end up doing when you are, even if we are doing manually. Basically click with the mouse or type in with the keyboards. Now, when you talk about the tools, again, tool has to do the same thing. So it has to identify those controls and then visually basically interact with it. Basically, so you provide the instruction to so first you configure the tool to identify those controls. Where is my text box? What's the name of the text box? Maybe you use the ID of the text box. So in order to do that, you have to get familiar with that TML side of things a little bit. And if you guys are not familiar with that TML, make sure you go to guru99.com or something, or some site, and get pretty much all the handles on what are the different types of controls available within HTML, because that skill will come handy for you guys, and specifically for automation. So automation tools simulate the real user, right? So what are we do manually? Verify, identify. So again, tool has to identify the control and then perform some action about it. That's what essentially, I mean, when you say automation tools, it's based on these concepts. No matter what tool you utilize, whether you utilize Ruby Cucumber, Selenium, or you utilize UFT, QTP, Smart Bear, or Tosca, they all are pretty much built on the same concept, these tools. Now, where is the difference, right? What is the main difference among these tools? So as I said, the tools are evolving daily basis, okay? So when you talk about scripting and providing the instruction, that's where the biggest difference is for the tools. When I say scripting or providing instruction within the tool, so what I mean is that, and when I go through the example of the Ruby Cucumber versus Tosca, then you guys will see how vast the difference is. So when we say visually identify the tool, if you are utilizing Selenium, Ruby Cucumber, Selenium, you have to build everything from scratch, okay? And if you want to click on a button, you are again providing the instruction in the programming to basically click on that button. Now, when you are talking about the tool like Tosca, Tosca is considered one of the codeless tool. Codeless meaning there is almost zero programming that you need, and so the Ruby Cucumber is pretty much 100% programming, versus Tosca is almost zero. Okay, there are no tools called zero programming tools, but its amount of coding that you have to do is significantly less. So that's the power of tools. And maybe that's the reason, if once I go to the next slide here, you can clearly see here, hopefully you guys can see it, this slide.
Yes.
Let me a little bit zoom in here, okay? So this is from Gartner, and if you are not familiar with the Gartner, get familiar with that term. Gartner is one of the leading Gartner is one of the leading company. It's more like they evaluate various tools and they come up with the metrics based on their capabilities and functionalities in the market, depending on what tools can provide. And then they identify which are the tools that are leaders in the market versus which are the evolving ones or challengers in the market. What are the niche players, visionaries? For leading tool, to identify the leading tool from this diagram, you have to look at this leaders column, okay, in visionaries. So what it means is that Smart Bear, Tricentis is nothing but the Tosca, Tosca Tricentis. There is a tool called Eggplant. Micro Focus is in the challengers category. Okay, so when we talk about the QTP and UFT, it is from Micro Focus now. So they are here. So in the so what it means is Tricentis, Smart Bear are a lot more capable in the functionality for the automation. And essentially they are codeless automation tools, meaning you don't have to write much code. While when you, I think most of you have seen the QTP, right? When you went through the camps or earlier learning process. It's a record and play type of tool. It generates the script in the background. And then you have to modify the script if once it's generated. So you have to learn something about VB scripting and coding, right? So that's what the Micro Focus tool is about, record and play. When you talk about the Tricentis and Smart Bear and those type of tools, pretty much it works on a different concept. And I'll show you how they work. And you can clearly identify the difference between the QTP, UFT versus Tosca versus Ruby Cucumber. Okay. Now, one thing you notice is Ruby Cucumber is not listed here. Ruby Cucumber, Watir, Selenium is not listed here because these are the vendors of the tool. Ruby, Cucumber, Watir, and Selenium, they are open source technologies. There is no vendor. It's maintained by the open source community of the developers. So that's the reason it's not listed here, basically, in this particular diagram or in this particular graph. Okay, but Ruby Cucumber is and those tools are equally popular. And why is the case? Because they are free. Tricentis, Smart Bear, they cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. Same with the QTP. But when you talk about the free, something providing free, same functionality, the Ruby, Cucumber, Selenium, those are free open source technologies. Okay, so that is the reason they are, one of the reasons they are not listed here, because there is no vendor for them. You pick it, if you want to write tests, you just grab it, download it, and start creating the tests anytime. But for Tricentis Smart Bear, you have to pay good licensing fees, and then only you can work through that. So that is the main thing I want you guys to understand. What are the leading tools? And if you are driving towards the adding to your skill sets, I would suggest you pick up those things basically in what is leading in the market. So like Tricentis is used heavily by Nationwide here, and there are a few companies who can afford those tools. But again, it significantly improves the productivity of the QA developers as well, because they are pretty much drag and drop type of tools. And with the zero coding, the existing QAs can transition and pick up those additional skills and start creating the automation tests without any programming knowledge. So that's the reason those tools are leader with the big companies. Okay, but any mid-size or small companies who doesn't have much money, they will either pretty much will go with the Ruby Cucumber, Selenium, Java, Cucumber, Java, Selenium, or those type of tools. Who does not have any money. Okay. Any question on the tools here? Have you guys heard of anything else? The folks who joined recently, Bola and a couple of other folks. What are you guys seeing in the market as far as Columbus goes? Okay. Feel free to talk, okay? Because this is more interactive as well. I want you guys to feel comfortable. It's not a typical webinar where you just listen and go, but I want you guys to provide some feedback as well. And that way. Okay, so we'll move on. So keep this slide handy, okay? And I'll send you guys the slides in the email, those who basically attended. Okay. So typical uses, right, for these tools is obviously, you guys know it, it's functional testing, regression testing. It's pretty much all about testing when we talk about the QA or automation, test automation tools. Okay. Let me move on to, so hopefully you guys got the idea, or maybe refresh your memory about the test automation if you have not used it for a while. So I'm going to move on to the different topic here. So robotic process automation. Is any of your companies use that? Have you guys heard the terminology? RPA? Have you guys read about it? Any of you?
No.
Okay. If not, which is fine, but this is I would say this is the kind of like a next trend, and in the automation side of things. And basically, when we talk about the test automation, right, it strictly focuses on the quality assurance or testing, automating that part of it. When we talk about the robotic process automation, it's about anything that happens in the real world. So it's a much bigger umbrella than just strictly the testing automation. So if you break down the words, right, on this slide is a robotic, meaning anything that mimics the human actions. So anything the business is doing, let's say somebody is, for example, that somebody is comes to work daily. They go to the Yahoo Finance stock market. They check for Microsoft code. So they read the code, and they might have to basically, if I'm a stockbroker, then I'll basically have to do something about that code. Basically, maybe I feed into some other tool and do some analysis on it. And the result of that analysis, I might provide to my clients, right? So that's kind of like a daily process I'm doing on a daily basis. I have to go through the screen, read the data, what's out there on the Yahoo Finance, input into certain tools, and then maybe shoot an email to my clients. Hey, this price has went down 5% or 10%. Maybe this is my advice. You go sell it. Maybe there is a big news in there, right? So those are some of the processes, right? Well, now when we talk about the process, so first thing, robotic is mimicking the human actions, right? Second part is a process. So what I just described to you is one user going through the reading the screen, that complete process. It includes multiple steps. The person reads the screen and they write down manually on piece of paper their inputs into some other software. And then final calculation, he puts down in the email and come up with his recommendation. So those are called, that's called the process, right? It's a set of sequential actions, okay? Sequential actions, so all these different steps he's doing, those are called activities or steps or actions. You can think it that way. So robotic process, right? So those are basically mimicking the user action. And when you are applying the tool to basically mimic the first two items, basically the process, basically automate the process. So that is called the actual robotic process automation without any human intervention. Again, concept is very similar. Test automation, no, there is a tool there sitting in the middle, and that's doing all the testing, where you are providing the instruction to say passed or fail and all those things. Here, you are actually creating the process in a software that can perform whatever this guy was doing. The tool can go scrap the data from the screen and then input basically into another software, and then finally shoot an email. So when you automate that whole process, you can say you applied the robotic process automation concept. Now, how can you do that? You have to apply using the certain tools. Okay, so that's the terminology. So again, this is a different definition, a process of automating the operations, which may involve one or more steps or activities or tasks or processes, but again, without human intervention. That is robotic process automation. Okay. So again, this is more like a diagram. So if you look at it, right? So we are doing daily. Somebody's doing it sitting on the desk, daily activities, and they are doing same thing over and over again, basically, which is time consuming and boring. And what you can do is you can have a robotic process, apply the robotic process automation. So on those repetitive tasks, which can have certain rules as well, rule-based repetitive tasks, you can apply the automation, so you can free up the guy's time. And maybe that's the reason, like companies like AEP, which uses Uipath as one of the tool. Actually, they are one of the big consumer of RPA technologies at AEP. State Auto, I believe they use some type of basically similar technologies, Uipath as well. Basically, ultimately, the goal is to free up the time, increase the productivity, and focus more on what is important for the worker rather than doing the mundane, repetitive task and boring tasks. Okay, so that's where the automation comes in the picture. So it's strictly not the quality assurance or anything like that, but it's a much bigger umbrella, and you can apply to any organizational processes that anybody's doing. So that's where the RPA comes in the picture. Okay. Now, this slide gives you a little bit more idea about why folks go towards robotic process automation or RPA. So you can think it this way, right? This column represents the humans. It works 8 hours a day, 60% productive on average, or 65% on average. So that means you take certain breaks and everybody does certain things, makes mistakes, you don't do multitasking very well and all those things, right? So robot address those problems, okay? Works 24 hours a day. Once you configure the software, it's 100% productive, meaning it can handle the errors as well. Plus, you don't have to worry about taking a break because it will always up as long as the server is up or wherever it's running is up. Doesn't make much mistake. It's a rule based, so you can supply those lot of rules and everything. You can apply the whole programming logic. What I mean by that, the looping conditions, if else statements. I think most of you are familiar with those some basic programming, right?
Mhm.
So those things you can apply and configure these robots or processes. And again, I think somebody ran the on typical, right? Typical how much savings companies can make when they do the RPA. So if let's say person salary is $100,000, just to keep it simple, okay, and he's 60% productive on average, right? So you are actually paying a lot more for 60% of his time. Now, when you talk about the robots, you can do this, and if you basically configure the robots to do the similar things, the robots you can configure for like about $10,000 in a yearly cost instead of paying $100,000. Does it mean that I have to get rid of the person? No, that's not what it means. What it means is that the person, if you take out the repetitive tasks, he can focus more on the more productive tasks or more important tasks. And probably for the same reason, companies like Nationwide use Automation Anywhere. There's a different tool, but it's similar to the basically Uipath. Okay, they works all the same way. So that's the reason they have like thousands of robots. They are going towards that route to configuring and running in that companies, so that people can focus on a lot more important work than these things. Now, why as a QA you guys should be concerned about? So a couple of things here. The pay scale is a little bit different when you talk about the QA automation versus RPA automation, but the skill gap that I'll show you is not much different. Okay, so with some additional skills, you can go towards RPA and those route. Okay, but I want you guys to understand the RPA. What is RPA first, and then we'll talk about other items. So this is another slide. Hopefully you guys can all see it here. Okay. So again, this is from Gartner, and it's a last year diagram. So you can clearly see who are the leaders in RPA space. Okay. So there are, again, just like QA automation tools, there are several folks in the market. But UiPath, Blue Prism, and Automation Anywhere, those three guys are the leaders in this space. There are other folks here. I think like Microsoft has PowerFlow, which is not even listed here. Okay, which is not even listed here. But so there are a bunch of other vendors in this space. Okay, but these three tools, they set themselves apart with the functionalities and capabilities the tool can provide, and how fast or how much coding that you need to learn. Again, when we talk about Tosca, right, it's a codeless tool. That means you don't have to do pretty much any coding in Tosca. You might have to get familiar with certain scripts type of thing. Same thing here, depending on number of coding that you have to do and capabilities, these are the leaders. And in the Columbus area, specifically, UiPath is a bigger one. I know several companies use that here. Automation Anywhere, there are a few companies. Blue Prism is a European tool. It's very popular in the Europe, and because it's a European-based company. But at the same time, those tools are popular here as well, maybe in the West Coast area and East Coast side of things. Okay. Any questions so far on this RPA tools, or what you guys understand? Okay. All right. So I'm gonna move on. Feel free to ask. Okay, it's not a typical webinar. As I said, if you have any question, we can certainly chat about it. Okay. Okay. Now, the RPA is a little bit more involved than the configuration wise. So when you talk about the RPA, right? So you need certain skill sets, and I'll go over that difference in the skill sets, what you need. Okay. But again, it has some development tools. It has the robots. So robots are nothing. So one robot is nothing but whatever process, one process you can automate and configure as one bot. They call it bot or robots. Okay, so that's what the process. Think through. You have one test case you are automating. Here you have one bot that you are automating, and bot includes series of steps or activities. In the stock market example I gave you guys, right? Where you are reading the screen. So that's the first step. Once you read the script, scrap the data from the screen, then you input into another software. So that would be the second step over there. Then you send email. That would be the third step. So bot, whatever bot you or robot you configure, that includes all three steps. That's considered one software robot. And as I said, companies are working towards thousands of robots to automate tasks to save tons of money. Okay, so once you configure the robot, that's the brain in the RPA world, robots. And that's what it does, deals with the multiple application 1, 2, 3, email, all they are considered applications in the RPA world. So you can, or read the Excel, they screen scrap the data and all those things. That's, you can do that with RPA tools. And I'll show you a very good example in the Uipath, how you can, what are the different things you can do in the Uipath. Okay. So as I said, typical uses, right? So QA-based use cases are regression testing, functional testing, all different types of testing. But here, you have data entry, rule-based decision-making, preparing the reports, anything pretty much you can think of. You can automate using the RPA. Anything that you are doing manually, you can do that using RPA. Now, one question that comes to a lot of people's mind is, hey, can I apply the RPA tool for automation testing? Some companies like Tosca, they have automation tools for quality assurance or testing. They also have RPA tool. Okay, the purpose is different. You cannot, you can do certain things with the RPA tool, but when it comes to the pass fail and those capabilities, RPA tool does not include that. So to answer that question, yes, you can do certain things, whatever you are doing in the test automation, but when it comes to the reporting and testing side of things, a lot more of those things you cannot do in the RPA tools, because RPA tools are designed for different purpose. Okay, so that is one of the things to keep in mind. And it's a much bigger umbrella. Okay, a much bigger terminology than just focus than just a QA. Okay. Before I go on the demo, let me show you the skills requirement for RPA versus test automation. Okay. So here we have test automation and RPA side of things. So how much programming you need to know, right? So pretty much basic programming constructs when you talk about test automation, especially if you are using the tools like QTP, UFT, SmartBear, Tosca, and those things. You still need to know some basic programming concept. Now, when you talk about, again, here, it's more of a depend type of thing. So depending on the tool, how much programming you need to know, okay? Ruby Cucumber, it's a lot more programming you have to pick up than the actual Tosca or SmartBear or UFT. But again, the flexibility, that's where a lot of, and the money is used and a lot of things. Sometimes the company has a preference on technologies as well and limited budget. So that's where some of the things you have to pick up programming wise for the test automation. Now, when it comes to the RPA, okay, again, it's a similar requirements, but most of the RPA tools, so like Uipath, works on top of .NET, okay? So VB.NET or C# knowledge is plus, but in order to get started, you don't have to learn that, but if you wanna go mature a little bit more in that area, you will end up learning the VB.NET, okay? Plus some of the advanced tasks or activities you wanna perform, you have to deal with the programming in the RPA world. And I'll show you where you need to apply those programming. Technology-wise, mostly web, Windows, and mobile applications, the automation tool deal with. Here, you can deal with pretty much any technologies in the RPA world: web, Windows, web services, Citrix, mainframes, Excel, PDF, CSV, queues, database, anything. Okay. SQL database knowledge required for some of the backend testing, right, on the automation world. Here, you will have to learn that because you're gonna deal with the applications which has some type of database that you're gonna deal with. Okay, so you have to understand the SQL and database. Now, are you gonna be writing the scripts heavily, SQL scripts? Probably not. But you should be able to write the select, insert, update, those type of, basically, you should be able to do that. That's a very basic one-on-one, okay, for RPA. HTML side of things, you have to pick up that HTML, okay, because both tools, and you can see the difference in the demo, both tools will require knowledge of HTML, okay. When you are dealing with the web application specifically, grab the control. How do I identify the control? RPA tools works with the same concept as automation, test automation tool. So you need to be able to do that, basically pick up HTML inside out. XML is basic familiarity. You need to have it conceptually. And finally, the frameworks. So you have data-driven framework, keyword-driven, library framework in the test automation. In the RPA world, there is a robotic enterprise framework. So what it is when you write the bot or create your robots, you have to write it certain way so that if something fails, you can handle basically your bot doesn't crash basically. So you need to make sure you're writing a good bot which can restart in any scenarios and all those things. So, but it's more focused towards a little bit more advanced programming concept. Okay, enterprise framework. Here, when you are creating the bots, you have to pick up the framework in the RPA world. Okay. So hopefully it makes clear to you what skills you're gonna need it from your standpoint. Any question on the skills? Okay. Let's move on to the actual demo side. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna show you the RPA first. So as I said, the Uipath, right, is one of the popular tool, and this is very popular in Columbus area, Uipath. So if you are doing any recruiting or if you are thinking towards picking up anything, I would say Uipath is your best bet for the RPA. Okay. Let me show you one simple example. Okay. So how the tool looks like, right? What are the things you can do? Let's see, find me some scrapping example here. Okay. So this tool is again codeless tool, right? So there is not much programming here, as you guys can see it. Can you guys read the screen? Can you guys read the text on the screen? Anybody?
Yes.
Okay. I just want to make sure you guys can see it properly. Okay. All right. So here, what I'm doing is the Yahoo example I mentioned, right? So I'm opening up a browser here. Let me just explain you first, and then I'll show you one from scratch. Okay. So I'm opening up a browser. Then I'm doing some series of activities. And here, what I'm doing is I'm using the data scrapping. So I'm gonna go and read all the codes, okay? And then it will shoot me an email to this email account, okay? So what I can do is I can configure this series of activities in this tool without any writing a single line of code, okay? And let me just go and run it quickly. And then I'll show you how you can deal with it. So when I run it, it will kick off the browser. right? Just like test automation, this is what I have. It will try to go and open the browser. Let me turn off a couple of browser extensions, Blue Prism, otherwise it will take some time. Let me stop this one, start back up with a different browser, okay? So there are properties that you can configure. Okay, so let me stop this one and I'll show you quickly here. And let's see, this time I'm going to pick the Internet Explorer or yeah, Firefox. Let's see if I have better luck with running with this. Okay, so at this point, it tries to go to the yahoo.com and from there, it should scrap the results and work with that. I think I have too many extensions enabled on my machine. So probably it's taking a lot of time. Otherwise, shouldn't be this slow. Okay. Okay, let's work through different example here. Yeah, still trying to load it. I probably need to disable some extensions here. Let's come back here. Let me try Chrome again. And oh, I got two more extensions. Give me a second. Let me go and do that. Okay, Uipath is the only one I need. Don't need Tosca. Don't need Blue Prism. Don't need automation anywhere. While it's still running through here, okay, let me come back here and let me show you one from scratch. Okay, how do you create these bots type of thing? So let's talk about different one, because the other one is dealing with the browser. Somehow my browser is having issue with the extensions I have loaded. But here I'm reading a simple PDF file here, and which PDF file is sitting in this particular folder. And what I'm doing is I'm dumping the data from that PDF to just displaying on the screen. So I can do that with these things without any issue as well. So there are a lot of different things you can do it. Okay, so this one, I have somebody's resume. Basically, I'm reading that PDF file and dumping it out the data over there. Let's come back here. Let me pick a different one. Here, what I'm doing is I'm doing some data table. Let's see which one I can pick here. Oh, so this one, I think some of you went to the SQL class as well. So what I'm doing is I'm reading the SQL database, the patient table, and dumping it out on the screen, basically all the patient data. So just look at here on the left bottom corner, okay? And I'm hoping my SQL is up and running as well. There are a few things. It looks like my SQL server is not running, so I need to have that started as well. Okay, but let me show you one from scratch, okay? So these are some of the examples that we have, but let me see how you can have quickly without doing any programming, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a sequence, which is nothing but series of activities, okay? I'm just gonna say, name it as a demo sequence. Okay, so it's an empty sequence here. And then what I'm going to do is, let's do one thing here. I'm just gonna say open browser. So so there are a bunch of built-in activities. As I said, there are several activities available. You just click on drag and drop here, okay? And let's say here I'm going to go to the rflown training.cloudapp.net. Okay. And so this is what I'm trying to do. And I can specify what browser I want to open on. So here I can say IE or Firefox or Chrome or Edge or whatever. So for now, I'm just gonna leave it default, see what happens. And then it will, so again, it will throw me some error here. So when you run it, it try to compile and basically throws error. Okay, so there are compilation tool type of thing built in as well. And here it opened up basically the IE window, and now it tries to go to the browser. So if you recognize it, right, it's kind of like a similar thing what you are doing in the tool as well, right? Whatever QA automation tools, it's very similar concept here. Okay, so I just went over there and basically, so let me stop that. I'm gonna do one more. I'm gonna show you a couple of more things here. Okay, so once I'm on the page, right, what do you do typically when you have to identify the controls to interact with? You have to know what these controls are, right? When I want to type in something here. So here I can do inspect element. Okay, and I can find out the name. If you are doing automation, test automation. Hopefully you guys didn't forget those concepts. Okay, so the tool works very similarly. Okay, so here, let's say I want to click here and I want to type in certain values. So this RPA tool, I'm going to do here, type into, I'm going to put that activity in here, type into, and it will have this type of indicate element inside browser. So I'm going to click on there, and then I'll go here and I'll click here. So what it will do is it will basically collect that element information and then put that as a step here. Okay, and then let's say I want to type in HP here. Okay, so that's for my activity. So if I run this again, I'm gonna close out. Let's run this again. Okay. Why it's opening twice? Let's see. But again, if you can see here, right? So it pulled up the way it recognizes similar way. Okay, when you talk about the differences here in the technology or similarities, if you understand how, so if I say this is kind of like basically the ID of this control, so the tool recognizes the same way basically as the QA automation technologies. Okay, so if you get familiar with one QA tool, how it works, you should be able to pick up how these technologies works together. Okay, so here, let's do simple thing here. If you want to do on a click on the button, so you just type it in click, and then you drag and drop activity and find out where exactly you want to do this click activity, like what button and so forth. Okay, so that's how this pretty much RPA technology you can work with. Now, as I said, RPA works with the web-based application, Windows application, browser application, anything else. So if I go here, and let's say I'm not dealing with any web application or anything like that, and I can simply say here in the activities, okay, open application, okay, and I can say here, or I can interact with actually the notepad. Okay, so let's do that. Let me show you one quickly that example here. Okay, so here what I can say is where do I want to type in, and I can say notepad. Okay, and then I can say whatever text I want to type it in. Okay, it doesn't matter. Okay, and when I run this, right now my notepad is empty, right? If I run this, my text will be written into my notepad. This is what I can do with that as well. Okay, so it works with any type of application that you can come across. Let me show you example here quickly for Excel manipulation here. See if I have it, one example quickly. Scrapping, read queues, PDF. Another example I have here is I can organize my folders. So when you talk about automating the processes, right? I can do anything. So I have certain files in my certain file folder, and based on the name of the file, I can move these files, PNG files into the PNG folders on my machine. So I can, without little programming, there is no programming code here. Now, where is the programming comes? Is when you are dealing with this is more like a scripting programming, okay? So when you are dealing with this type of assignment, this is a VB.NET syntax, and it's a VB.NET object. So it says it's a new file object you are creating with whatever the file name you are supplying, okay? So that's where you need to get familiar with this programming syntax. Here, I have one more syntax. I'm stripping out basically what type of file it is, and basically to basically move that into particular folder. So in this example, I have C temp folder. I'm starting out. I'm reading all the files from the temp folder, and then I'm looping through for each, looping through every file. I'm checking the file, what type of file it is, right? I'm getting the file type. If it's a PNG or JPG file, then I'm moving into the JPG file folder, okay? So if I come back here in my C, and I go here temp folder. So let's say I have a JPEG file. I'm moving from here to here, okay? So I have SQL Bootcamp in the temp folder. What my bot supposed to do is move this file, dump it into the JPEG folder. If it's a JPEG file, it's a JPG file, okay? So when I run this move file in temp XML bot, and let's go and run that. Okay, and at the end, I will see the file coming in. Now you can see it here, right? The file coming into this folder automatically. Now imagine you have these things, how much time you are saving manually sorting out, right? So that's where companies are investing tons of money in this type of bot type of tools, which can automate pretty much anything in your company. Okay. There are several use cases here, but I think I'm gonna stop here on the Uipath tool. Now, best thing is for you guys, okay? If you wanna learn a little bit more on the Uipath, obviously you can go to the Uipath Academy, okay? There is a Uipath, just Google it, Uipath Academy. There is a community edition of the software you can download. And the Academy has actually a lot of training videos, which you can basically go through and work through that. I think it's about 5 days worth of videos. They have it on their site. And you should be able to pick up those technologies or just get familiar with some basic concept, okay, for the Uipath. Any question on this tool? The main takeaway I want you guys to have it is understand it's pretty much drag and drop type of tool, okay? Not much coding, whether you talk about Uipath or Automation Anywhere. The only thing you need to get familiar with is various different technologies. Like a database, you have to deal with databases, applications like HTML, XML, as I showed on earlier. What are the skills? And as long as you pretty much learn most of the things as part of the QA automation, just pick up a few additional things and you are on your way as RPA. And I think there is a little bit difference on the salary side of things as well. If you are a QA versus RPA, obviously there is this is upcoming technologies or latest technologies, so there is obviously a bump in the salary as well. Okay. Okay, let me go over one more tool. Okay, I think we are almost at the time, but I'm gonna I'm gonna extend for another 15-20 minutes. Okay, hopefully, and you guys can see the Tosca as well. I think some of the tools that you worked in the past for the QA automation tools, I think most of you have seen the UFT as well, right? Where you are doing the record and play type of things. Some of you have seen the Ruby Cucumber as well, which is, let me go over Ruby Cucumber first, okay, quickly. So Ruby Cucumber tool, it's a behavior-driven development BDD tool, right? Where you start your automation test with the Cucumber scenario. Okay, so this is written in Cucumber. Basically, it's a Gherkin syntax. But so Gherkin supports certain keywords. So you have to have a feature, you have to have a scenario keyword, you have given when then type of keyword. And then you have to build your automation test from scratch. So once you write the Cucumber scenario, you will have your step definition, which is nothing but the Ruby program that you have to create. So this step definition will match with the Cucumber step. So here I am on RFlow homepage, right? This is my step. It will match with, given I am on RFlow homepage, and Cucumber will execute this line of code, okay, for this step. Now, where is this code? Again, you have to build everything from scratch. So this code is getting executed here, okay? Actually in the support file, let me go here. And this one is using support login, right? So it comes here, this class file, and it's executing this line of code to actually log in and to the site, RFlow site. So this is the amount of coding for Ruby Cucumber, okay? So you have to understand start with the Cucumber BDD framework, write the feature file, which is nothing but Cucumber feature file and Gherkin. Then you're gonna have your step definition file, which is again Ruby programming, and the step definition file will execute the actual work using the Watir. Here it's using the Watir, but you can use Selenium as well. And these are the syntax for the Watir. How do you find the control? Again, you will see this syntax. This is the ID of the control, and then it's calling the browser object to do some action on it, on this control, basically. So all these things you have to hook up end to end together, okay? So it needs the Ruby programming knowledge, Cucumber framework knowledge, and then you have Watir or Selenium, one of those WebDriver knowledge, in order to build this automation test end to end. It's all about programming, okay? When you talk about Ruby, Cucumber, Watir, Selenium. And you have to create the program in tool like RubyMine, or there are a few other tools as well, but typically RubyMine is the most popular one in the companies. Any question on the Ruby Cucumber? Okay, so amount of coding, right? That's what it differs. So Ruby Cucumber is the heavy coding side of things. You have to pick up those programming. When you go, then the next step up, less coding would be the UFT QDP. Then next step up, which is less coding, would be the Tosca. Okay, so I wanted to show you this thing so that you understand the difference among the coding requirement and the tools. Okay, so this is Ruby Cucumber side of things. Now let's talk about Tosca. Okay, so Tosca, you're gonna come with this type of interface. Okay, this looks very similar to the Uipath here, right? This is Uipath. I have it. This one is Tosca. Now, if I'm automating anything, okay, in Tosca, the first thing I need to do is create my module first. Okay, so when I say module, so there are a bunch of folders here, right? Bunch of tabs here. The most important ones are modules folder tab and the test cases. Test cases is where you're gonna be organizing your test tabs and those things. This is where you're gonna be doing that. But before you do that, in Tosca, you have to take additional steps. Okay, so let me show you quickly here. So I'm gonna create a brand new folder called demo folder, okay, in the modules. And let me go and create a new folder called homepage. Okay, and here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go here to the rflown site. Again, I guess because of this drivers, it's running a little bit slow. And I make sure it's 100%, just like any other tool, right? I'm on this side. Now let's see what the differences are in this tool versus Q2P, UFT, and those things. There is no record and play here, okay? But the good thing about this codeless Tosca tool is you right click on it and say scan. And here I'm going to scan the application here, okay? So in this manner, it works with the RPA, similar to the RPA tool, Tosca, okay? So what it will do is it will pop up this one window, Xscan, and here I can see which page I want to scan. So I'll click on this page and say scan. In order to scan Chrome, you need to install, yes, okay, I'm gonna do that. Okay, oh, maybe I need to enable that scan. Sorry, I disabled that. Tosca, I think I have it. Okay, all right, there you go. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna come here. I'm gonna start over in that sense. Scan again, this time. Okay, so it brought up the same window. So I'm gonna do that, select that window, click scan. All right, so what it did is it just pulled up all the controls that it saw available on the page. So I can recognize it, this username, right? I have this username control here, password, I have the password, then I have login, right? So tool automatically did that for you. Remember, in the Ruby Cucumber, you have to do everything from scratch. You have to go figure out your element and do everything. But here, once the tool does that, now if you don't see your control, you can say what is the level I want to go down. So I can increase the level, it will pick additional controls. Okay, but I think the first level should be good enough to pick your controls. So here I'm going to pick this one. So it will select that, it will select second one, and then third one I'm interested is in a button. Okay, so I got 3 controls and I'm gonna save it. And I'm going to close out. Okay, so at this point, my first scan is done. So when I come back to my Tosca tool here, and now I can expand this homepage. I have the module created for my homepage. Okay, and it has 3 controls in it. All right, now what I need to do is I'm going to keep it simple. So it's a very small demo. Okay, so once you scan the page, the second thing is you need to create a test case. Okay, So now I'm going to come back to my test case module. And let's come here, and I'm going to add a new test case folder called demo. Okay, and here I'm going to create a new test case. So these are different symbols that you need to get familiar with it. Okay, so here I can do new test case, and let's say login test case here. And then what I can do is I can simply drag and drop this module to my test case here. So now it includes three things. These are three steps, if you recognize it, right? And I can supply three different values here. So I can say HP, HP, and login. Login is a button, right? So you can say click, or you can simply type in X here. Now, if I run this, it's gonna fail, right? Why it will fail? Because I have this one does not include any step to open a browser. Okay, so what I can do is there are built-in libraries available in the Tosca module to open the browser and all those things, or open URL and all those things. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pick that up module. You can do it from here, or there is an easier way. You can navigate through here, okay? Or you can just simply say Control T, and you can say open URL tab up module. Okay, so it will dump that open URL module here, and I can rearrange that because this one has to be done first, and then this is the second one. All right, so at this point, now which site, right? So this is where you need to specify those URL value. So here I'm going to say HTTP rflown cloud app. Actually, let's just copy trainingcloudapp.net. Okay, so this is the URL. And at this point, I'm done with my test case, simple test case here. Okay, so here I can run this. I can select that test case and say run in Scratchbook. And let's see what it does. So it's gonna go validate the license. And then it will open the browser and it will run it and it will click it for us. Okay, so it already typed in these two things here. And now it's trying to click in, and it's just taking time. So now I'm on my home page. Okay, so if you look at it, how much coding you guys had? 0, right? And I can see my test case passed or fail, basically. Everything is green, so my test case is good. And it's all good at this point. Now, I did not give it verify or anything like that, but I could have easily done that. So if I scan this second page and I can say verify Herschel is present, then I can do that. And it's very simple here. Here, you can say action mode verify. Once I have the scan module, I can say verify, and whatever value you want to verify here, you can just simply say that. Okay. Let me quickly go and do that. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna scan the second module here. So again, it's gonna start the scan. It will pop up the windows, and this time I'm on this page, so I'm just gonna say scan. Okay. Now here you're looking for this thing, right? So what you wanna do is a couple of ways. If you don't see it here, you can say select on the screen. So I'm gonna go and do select on the screen. I'm gonna say this text. Okay, so now it's selected. And at this point, I'm good. So I'm gonna save the test case. Okay, and let me log out of rflown here. And I have second module. I'm gonna say, what is admin homepage? And this one has our control here, right? And it has a value in there as well, but I'm going to go and drag and drop on my login. Okay, so now admin homepage is third step available. These are all steps, right? So this one is third one, and I can supply here I can say Herschel, verify that value is Herschel. And instead of select, I can say verify. Okay, so it will check for this value and it will pass or fail based on that. So let me go and run this one. Oops. Run this one here. Run in Scratchbook. Okay, it opened a new window and now it's here, and then it failed this time. So we'll know why it failed. So we're gonna see it in the Scratchbook, and it's having some trouble recognizing it. So we have to figure out why it did not match with the value. Okay, so that's something wrong with our selector here. So I wanna make sure our selector is correct. But again, it's as simple as once you have the element, you can just simply say verify, and it should pass your and fail your test case. Okay. Any questions? So these two are important modules. Now there are several different things, I think, but this one does not require much programming. This tool. Now there is some scripting that you need to pick up, but again, I would say this is more like a zero code or codeless tool for test automation. You scan the modules, you create your steps. There are certain advanced level things that you have to do when you are running through the input values, various input values and all those things. There are a lot more things to that. Now, any question on the tool? Okay, so here is what I want you guys to do is, so if you don't have any question, so if you want to pick up these tools, okay, there are a couple of ways you can do it. Obviously, we teach that here. We plan to teach it in the future at some point. But for now, what you can do is you can go to the Tricentis.com. I think they have this tool, their academy, okay? They have the academy courses available for free till May 31st because of the COVID-19. So I would strongly recommend you, if you want to pick up the Tosca, you certainly go through it there, and they have good training courses. Okay, so you pick up there, at least go through the, I think there is a level 1 automation specialist one. That's the one you want to go through and pick up over next 14 days or 15 days. And you can download the tool and work through that. For Uipath, you can obviously download Community Edition for free forever, and take their academy courses. Is always free on their site, available. If you want to learn it with us, basically certain things, Tosca obviously will be offering this one Tosca, just like a couple of days type of thing, basically over sometime in July. Otherwise, we will be putting that as part of the QA bootcamp going forward. So instead of UFT or QTP, we are introducing Tosca going forward. So that's something, if you want to attend that, you can certainly attend at that point, which would be sometime in September. So August is a starting date, but when it comes to the Tosca or automation trainings, that would be, I believe, around September last week, second week of September. And the Uipath, if you want to attend with us, that's in October. So we don't have firm date yet, but that is definitely coming in October this year. And Automation Anywhere is sometime in Q2, basically in the next year. Okay. So with that said, let me just go through see if you guys have any specific question about anything. Anybody, any question?
Yes. This is Emmanuel.
Yes, Emmanuel.
Yes. Sorry. So when you started the boot camp,
Yep.
I mean, I was at work, so I couldn't focus really well.
Okay.
So I just I closed about 30 minutes and rushed home, and so it kind of like I'm a little bit lost right now.
Sure. So what you can do is we are recording this, so you can we're gonna put it out on the YouTube channel, and
Okay.
you can watch it from there, Emmanuel.
All right. Okay. And
Yep.
then more question with so with the automation, is it I'm wondering when are you gonna start with Jira, because it seems like well, I mean, I've spoken with some people
Sure.
which they've been saying that do I know Jira, which I don't know.
So Jira, I don't know when you attended, Emmanuel, but in certain camps, we did introduce Jira, and we're gonna be introducing Jira as well as a third tool. So we typically focus on the TFS or Azure DevOps basically now.
Okay.
Then ALM and the Jira is a third one. So we typically go over maybe like a couple of hours to get you guys started, and then because they all are similar tools, so you should be able to pick
Okay.
up by watching the videos and those things. But we do go over in the camp, certain aspect of it.
All right.
Yep.
Okay.
Sure. Anybody else? Any question? Okay. I mean, feel free to shoot me an email if you have any other question or anything like that. Let me see. Okay. But if you have any question, feel free to reach out to us. And as I said, I mean, since we don't have any in-class training because of the COVID-19 anymore, but we do have Ruby Cucumber training coming up. That is start next month. Believe it's June 14th. That is, again, it's a combination of online. If things open up, then we'll put it back in the classroom. But if things are still tight, that will be half online and half classroom type of hybrid type of thing.
Quick question, Hasha.
Yeah.
Yeah. So with the RPA bootcamp,
Yep.
is it something above automation?
So it is automation, definitely, but the use case for RPA is a little bit different. It's much bigger scope than just the testing. Okay, so anything the companies do these days, I mean, companies are doing big investment in RPA tools. So like a nationwide AEP is huge in Uipath, or the tool that I showed you. They are pretty big on that. A lot of insurance companies are going the Uipath as well. But it's again a process automation. It's not the quality assurance or testing automation. So anything that you are doing manually, they can pretty much automate those tasks. Anything repetitive.
All right.
Yep. Okay.
Thank you.
Sure. No problem. Anybody else?
So do you have any, this is Shumita, do you have any Ruby Cucumber separate class, or is it with Selenium?
No, so the technology is combined,
Okay.
Sumita. So you have to pick up the Ruby programming, Cucumber framework, Selenium and Watir. Okay, Watir and Selenium you can replace with each other. It's fine.
Okay.
But that's the technology stack you have to learn in order to write automation tests within the Ruby Cucumber framework. So we cover that end to end in the camps for the Ruby Cucumber camp. So including Ruby programming, what you need to know from the tester's perspective, and those things.
I have another question. You just said that Tosca. So is it compatible with Jira Atlassian?
So Jira and those tools are Tosca it has its own lifecycle management. Okay, so you can do pretty much requirements and all those things in Tosca as well. So it's a competitor to Jira, ALM, and Azure DevOps.
So is it compatible with mobile apps also?
Yeah, you can do a lot of things. Yeah, they have add-on components for the mobile and
Okay.
a bunch of other things. Yep. What I showed you is a web app, Pete, but you can do the web service testing, like API testing using Tosca and certain mobile aspect as well. Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, it's a pretty good tool. I mean, but again, it's expensive, as you have seen, right? There's not much coding involved, but that's the reason it's expensive, I guess. So, yep, not many companies.
Actually, my director told me to comparison for different tools. So at that time, I just saw the demo.
Yeah,
YouTube.
understand. But hopefully now it's clear to you what are the differences, level of programming is involved, and the money goes up when there is no programming. So money, you have to pay much more money. So, and the companies, small companies like yours, I don't think they can afford it, or they don't want to invest in those type of expensive tools.
Hey, Asha.
Yeah.
Good morning. This is Felix.
Yes, Felix. How are you?
Yeah, doing good. I'm present in the job market. A lot of job openings. A lot of opportunities or companies are asking for performance testers.
Performance tester, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but what I want to ask is, can someone be a tester can someone just train to be a performance tester?
If you pick up the tools, you can, but you still need to understand certain testing aspect. Like how do you go about testing and those things? You have to have that understanding. And once you have that, then you can go and pick up the performance testing area, those tools like Load Runner, Wind Runner, there are JMeter, is another one. Yep, those tools, or Microsoft one has a few as well. Yep. Yeah, but based on what I've seen is market is very niche market. That means very few jobs out there. But again, if you know quality assurance, if you know some automation, and if you know performance as well, testing, it's added things on your resume, definitely. More skills you can add.
So performance testing is just a part of automation testing?
No, it's a separate.
Separate, okay.
Yeah, it's a separate. Performance, you are automating certain, how many number of users my system can support. What is my stress test? How many, those things you can focus on.
Okay.
Automation is anything that you are doing manually, that's what you can automate.
Okay.
There is a difference in there.
Okay.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah, I get it clear now.
Okay,
I was like confused.
Oh, no problem.
Yeah.
Certainly.
Yeah, so we're warming up for the June bootcamp.
I'm sorry?
I say we're preparing to attend the boot.
Yeah, certainly. Just reach out to us. Yep. I think the QA one is in August 2nd. That's the QA camp. We have to move due to COVID. So the May one, we moved to August 2nd. And I think all the students, they moved to the August 2nd. So, yep.
Which is in June?
June is strictly the automation. With the Ruby Cucumber.
Because we've already done the QA.
Yeah, then you don't have to attend that again if you already done QA.
Yeah, we'll be doing the automation.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. And as I said, the automation one is hybrid. So depending on the things open up, then we'll move back to the classroom, basically setting. But right now it's slated for online. But if things open up, then we'll just move it in the classroom.
Okay.
I think the fees are lower as well because it's online fees. We have it. But I don't think there is any difference. You guys, anybody registers, they will not pay anything else, basically. Okay. Even if it moves to the classroom.
Is it $650?
For students, if you already took the courses, then obviously you will get $50 discount on top of it. So it will be about $600 for the students who attended other camps.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, we are old students, so
I know. Most of you, I think most of you are. So, yep.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
Okay, so sounds good then. Okay. Feel free to reach out to me for any question. All right.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank
great.
you.
See you guys. Bye-bye.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
Bye. fellas.
Yep.